Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Mike Noland, and tonight... Hey guys, I didn't even know I was on the air. No, you're staying where you are, doofus. I want to know where you are at all times.
Master tricked us, that's what he did.
We'll be right back. Okay, so tonight is tutorial number 10. Can you believe it? Now number nine was a lot of fun, and in this tutorial tonight we are going back to editing in LumaFusion, but many of the techniques that we are going to discuss tonight are all essential in cutting your editing time in half. But first, a big shout out, of course, to all of our viewers. The channel has achieved over 12,000 views already. And of course, a big shout out to all of our new subscribers. We are now at 142 subscribers. If you've been watching our videos and you have enjoyed the content and have been considering subscribing, just hit that subscribe to the tribe button and hit that top bell notification, and you'll be notified of all future videos. Okay, so it's back to LumaFusion tonight, but don't forget, all of these techniques you can use in other editing apps or programs. But really, if you think about it, cutting time in the editing process begins with the actual video shoot. This is true whether you're editing family videos or editing for a YouTube channel that you're considering starting. How much time do you actually prepare for your video shoots? Often, if it's family vacation, it's spur of the moment. I can't help you there. But for any type of video situation where you have a moment, a bit of time to set up the video shoot, and if it's for a YouTube channel, much more than a moment. Preparation on what you're going to cover in your video is of prime importance. If you are on camera, do you follow a script? Or are you like me and speak by the seat of your pants? Whatever your style is, preparation is still important. I don't actually write a script, but I take copious notes. I review those notes before every shoot, and I review them in between each scene setting, just to make sure I've covered all the points that I want to cover. Another point to consider is the lengths of your clips that you use in order to present your video. Do you just turn on the camera, do your thing until you're done, and then edit that huge block of video? Or are you the type of person who shoots their intro, then the body of their video, and their conclusion? Maybe you even shoot your body in several segments itself. Whatever way you do it, each and every video you'll find that you'll get better and better at just getting to the point. Each and every video should have smaller blocks, is what I'm trying to say. However many blocks you're going to have to bring in to your editing app or program, you will thank yourself in the end if those blocks are as brief and to the point as possible. Or are you at times cutting huge amounts of dead space out of those blocks? Depending on the length of your video, this could take hours. And without some of the things we're going to be covering in this video, many more hours on top of that. So tip number 1, plan your videos in whatever fashion that you want to prepare your video. Try to get better and better with each video at just getting to the point and not hem and haw and create a lot of dead space that you're just going to have to spend a lot of time cutting. If you are the presenter in your video, when you make a point, make sure that you maintain contact with the camera after you've made your point. See what I mean? I can't tell you how many times I make my point and then turn down. That doesn't do me any favors, and it really doesn't look good to you. And finally, tip number 3 is where we get in to our editing app LumaFusion. Okay, so we're back into LumaFusion, and I've already dropped the clip that we're going to go ahead and edit tonight. And I've already dropped a clip into a new project entitled Tutorial Number 10. Now, this clip is from a short intro of a recent video, and I chose this clip because this was the first time that I had to get into LumaFusion and actually edit the sound beyond just turning it up or turning it down. Now, how I got those clips in, if you haven't seen our videos, go ahead. We have a playlist entitled Tutorials. This video will be there along with the other 9, including a couple in iMovie as well. And like I said in those iMovie tutorials, if you're thinking of going to LumaFusion, and it's a big price for you because LumaFusion does cost $50, and for an app, that's pretty expensive. And you're at that point where you're still contemplating even going to an app that gives you professional editing capabilities. iMovie is always a very good place to start. And if you're just starting your YouTube channel, I can't think of a better app to go to, especially if you're using Apple devices. Are you still shooting with an iPhone 11 or a model even before that? Are you using just small little lights, $30 lights as your lighting? That's what I call a budget studio. Then there are other budget studios. We are a budget studio. We've slowly and incrementally increased what we've had in order to shoot better videos. But if there was a tip 2.5, it would be start shooting now, because it doesn't matter how much equipment you have. Your first video is probably going to be your worst video. That's almost a rule of the YouTube universe. So as I mentioned, this is a short intro to a recent video. Here I'm playing 2 different characters, one character in picture-in-picture, the other apparently in the studio proper. This is kind of a nice device for me and my weird, twisted sense of humor to play a couple of characters. One is in the universe of the picture-in-picture, wherever that is, and the other, like now, in the studio proper. It doesn't even matter that the picture-in-picture is me in the studio proper. Video and the suspension of disbelief can work magic for YouTube. Now, as I said, this was the first video that I've actually had to go in and do some sound manipulation. Most of my videos are talking headshots. As you know, I've either used a lavalier mic or actually even the mic on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. In those couple of videos, you all know the story. The lavalier did not hold up. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind about lavalier microphones, they are excellent at isolating your voice over the rest of the room. And one of the trade-offs of that isolation is that most of your lavalier microphones pick up the bass in your voice pretty well. And also be careful because they can be very sensitive if you raise your voice too high. If you watch some of our earlier videos, you can clearly hear distortion in my voice. Like I said, sometimes we learn hard, but then we pass it on to you. Now for this skit, for some lame reason, I'm playing Old Paul Atreides from the book or movie Dune, depending on whichever one you're familiar with. Now the character in the picture-in-picture is his mentor. Now the character in the picture-in-picture is a low-speaking character, right? And of course, it's going to pick that nice bass response up. But at the end of editing, you know you're going to drop a soundtrack underneath all of this, and you want that soundtrack low enough so that it doesn't override your voice. You don't want it being a distraction. But it is playing in the background, and you have 2 characters, in this case played by the exact same person. So the voice registers are the same. There is an interaction to the dialogue. The music is going on. I put a soundtrack on there called Sandcastles. It just sounded so Dune-ish. But while this cacophony of sound is going on, the 2 voices sounded too similar. And on top of that, the character playing in picture-in-picture is speaking very low. So when I'm speaking like this, and he's speaking like this, of course I'm going to have to raise the volume. But then I thought, no, that's going to just add a lot of bass. It's going to conflict with soundtrack and the main character in the studio. So now this is where my background as a recording engineer comes in handy. As you recall, one of my complaints with the HomePod Mini is its pre-set up equalizer. And I mentioned a smiley-faced EQ in that review. Now, I didn't explain that at the time, but a smiley-faced EQ is accomplished basically if you look at your entire sound as a line. Now, down here, you have your bass responses. Up here, you have your high, shrill, treble responses. When an engineer mixes a cymbal, he'll kick up those high ends. He'll do a roll-off. He'll pull down the bass ends of that, right? And in a final product that's already been pre-mixed, often audiophiles have found a nice smiley-faced EQ works real well, especially for pop and even some rock and roll. But all of this is important if you're going to understand sound manipulation. So what's my dilemma here? My dilemma is I need the voices to sound slightly different. And this is pretty easy to accomplish. So if this is the first time you've looked into LumaFusion, picture-in-picture is accomplished by laying a clip on top of the clip that you want to present as your main clip. And here we have our picture-in-picture right here on top of our main clip. Now, the sound I want to manipulate, of course, is the sound in picture-in-picture. Why? Because of the very low bass and the low volume. Remember, I don't want to just turn it up. That'll bring the bass up, and all that's going to do is cause distortion, right? Now, with a smiley-faced EQ, when you think again of that band, often what many like to do is pull down those mids. They'll just pull them down. All right? They might roll off the bass at the very beginning and maybe the very highs, but basically you have a smiley face, don't you? You can see these in graphic equalizers all the time, on home stereos, in apps, all over the place. Maybe you haven't messed with them a whole lot because many apps and many programs offer you these presets, such as the HomePod Mini. So that explains why it's called a smiley-faced EQ. Tonight we're going to discuss what I call a frown face EQ. And the reason is basically we're going to do the opposite of what you do to accomplish the smiley face EQ. Instead of dipping those mids, we're going to take that very bassy response. I'm going to roll off just the ends of that bass. But when we get to this mid section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase that mid section. You'll see a curve like this. I'll also roll off some of the very highs. That's always a smart thing to do. Unless you've got sonic things happening in your video that absolutely have to be there, then you're editing on a whole different level anyway. But this is the beginning of really starting to manipulate your sound, taking a pro approach, having some fun with it. Don't forget, that's the way we do it here. So let's have a little bit of fun here. So we've talked about how to achieve picture-in-picture, but let's review very quickly. A quick double tap brings us to an editing window. Now, like I said in the past, whatever editing window you were in the last time you did editing in your project, when you double tap that clip, it's going to bring you to that editing window. So if you're just familiarizing yourself with LumaFusion and all of a sudden you double tap it and say you want picture-in-picture and your sound editing window opens up, that's just where you were the last time. And here's how you get to where you want to be. As I've mentioned before, down here you have 5 options. These are 5 different editing windows, and this is where the power and the magic of LumaFusion can really start to take effect. But for our purposes, sound is exactly where we need to be. But I want to review picture-in-picture. So I'm going to take the first option, and here you can see we are in picture-in-picture. If you notice, there are 2 screens here. One has the picture-in-picture character. When you first open it up, you'll have to shrink it down. You can do that by pinching with your finger or your trackpad. Either way, we've covered that in past videos, but this is basically where you get your picture-in-picture. Now, we're going to be discussing these editing windows a whole lot in the future. And in every video, we're going to attempt to get a little deeper into LumaFusion. Tonight is our very first video where we are going to take one slight step forward and really start to use some of the pro aspects of LumaFusion. In past videos, we've basically accomplished on LumaFusion what we could accomplish in iMovie. But LumaFusion is capable of so much more, and tonight we're going to take that first step. So let's go back to the sound editing window. Okay, so here we have a representation of our sound file. We have a bar that visually shows us where our sound is. Here's the levels of the sound. And as we've discussed, either with your finger, or of course you can just use your trackpad too. And of course you can see me doing that right here. No problem. And as I've mentioned before, use your Apple Pencil and you can control the volume and adjust it incrementally to your heart's desire. We're going to shut that down, and tonight we're going to go into Graphic Equalizer. Now, as I've said, a graphic equalizer can adjust your sound, can manipulate your sound, highlight what you want, and de-emphasize what you don't. Now, of course, you've got your controls to the right, and you can adjust your sound using those controls, and you would adjust them pretty much the same way that we've adjusted the sound levels with either your Apple Pencil, your finger, or your trackpad. But what I love about LumaFusion is that I can actually get in and visually manipulate this sound clip. And here's where you get the idea of a frown. Sad, isn't it? We've accented those middles like we told you. And down here I've rolled down my bass as well as rolled down my very high ends. Now if you notice, I did a lot more rolling off of the bass than I did the high ends. And again, that's because the lavalier mic will pick up way more bass than it does highs. And on second thought, I probably should have even rolled them down a bit more. And here's how I do it. So first of all, I just take my Apple Pencil and I just touch these and I can bring them down to wherever I want. So like I said, the character's bass voice was plenty bass enough. And what I wanted to do is rather than just turn up the volume, because again, eventually that would just cause more muddiness to the sound. So I brought up those middle frequencies. And I did that, as I've said. You could, go insane. I wouldn't go this insane. Bring them down, just experiment, have fun. And don't worry, if you don't want to have fun, you have all these controls here in the lower right of your screen. But just like in kindergarten, get some water, grab some dirt, make some mud pies. There's nothing wrong with that. Adjust, experiment, and you just watch. Every single video that you put out will be better than the last. Of course, there are many other tools, and we'll get into those. You have limiters you can mess with, delays, distortion, pitch adjustment, and presets that you can layer on top as well as adjust later. And of course, pan is not available because I shoot in mono. But if I drop a stereo track in there, that control becomes accessible to me immediately. So that's it. Simple as tips 1, 2, 2.5, 3, and a few others that we threw in for you. So once again, a big thank you to all you viewers. I don't know what to say about over 12,000 views and 142 subscribers. Blessings to you all, viewers, subscribers, everyone. This is The Bottom Line. I'm Mike Noland, and we'll see you in the next video.
It's time to set